So, thank you very much. Good morning. It's my pleasure to be here in Helsinki. Not my first time, to be honest. So, beside of all the technical issues and all the technical details we will see today and we will hear about today, the architecture, the technique behind and everything, I'd like to take you with me on the journey to the logistics part. I'm representing the business value of data spaces in Volkswagen. And the question is, the big question that we have is, what's the benefit in here? What has data to do with this? What does it mean, value of data? How can availability of data can influence material flows and whatever? And what has that all to do with carbon emissions, for instance? So, wrong? Yeah, my name is Burkhardt. I'm actually representing 3 roles. I'm project manager in Volkswagen, responsible in supply chain management. 80% of my time goes actually into the Catena-X project. I'm representing there Catena-X as a product owner. I'm developing a kind of service with my team regarding data exchange based on data spaces. And I'm board member of the International Data Spaces Association. And since more than 30 years, Lotte has mentioned that I'm in logistics. I've learned that from the scratch and have had the good opportunity to see, to get to know logistics from a distinctive point of view, whether it's transportation, whether it's from service providers' point of view. I have not always joined Volkswagen, of course, a big company, but it's a great experience to work for such a big company, of course, and a kind of powerful company, of course. And now from the data perspective is a new experience for me. I'm on the journey since 6 years now, and I enjoy it more and more. So, I'm always pressing the wrong button. So, this slide is what I call the sunflower field, if you want. And you will see this several times. I often refer in my speeches to this slide. You can see here, that's the classic supply chain. If you want, we have all the partners in here. And we're facing, as an industry, we're facing lots of changes at the moment, lots of challenges. You have recognized during the COVID, for instance, we were lacking material. We had interruptions of material chains. There were certain things to resolve. And if you imagine a classic supply chain, you have distinctive partners in it. You have the supply chain partners, of course, the end tiers, the suppliers themselves. But what we have learned over the last years, and that's where I have a great experience bringing into the supply chain matter, is there's a lot of services in between. So we have the service providers, the freight forwarders, you have the shipping agencies, you have the customs authorities, insurance companies, whatever. And what we have learned from the last few years with all those obstacles that we were facing the last 10 years maybe in supply chains is that it's not only necessary to take a look on the supply chain itself, the partners themselves, the suppliers, but we need to take a look on the service providers in between. And what's represented here in this slide as well, it's not only a huge number of partners, it's also time that you have. If you take a look on supply chains from the very first material, digging out the raw materials, whatever, proceeding this material, and step by step, you have a lot of time in here, distinctive value chain processes, distinctive steps you need to pass, and all those partners in here, plus the time, plus the transportation, plus any geopolitical obstacles that we're facing. You have weather conditions, and all of us remember to the ship in the Suez Canal 3 years ago. So can be responsible for a supply chain interruption. So the question is, what has that to do with data? The earlier we know about any obstacles, any problems, any disruptions or whatever, wherever in the supply chain, the better we can adopt, the better we can get alternative materials, because the basic or the general objective in terms of logistics, what is logistics doing, is to feed production, to maintain production in order to enable the user or the final company. In this case, it's an OEM, it's an automotive OEM, but any other kind of industry to enable to keep their promises, in terms of lead times, in terms of quality, in terms of costs, and so on. That's the perspective, and that's the purpose. Why are we doing that, and why do we need data spaces for? In order to improve our planning, looking to the obstacles that we are facing, to the challenges that we are facing as an industry. Plus, it's not only what I've been talking about, the COVID and all the circumstances that we're facing. We have a huge transformation that we are confronted with. We are an old industry. We need to manage this change. Industry 4.0 is one of the buzzwords. Transformation is one of the buzzwords. So we need to manage distinctive challenges at the moment, and data spaces will help us. So the automotive industry itself, after the COVID, we recognized that we are all in the same boat. We have all the same problems, and we started a big initiative with Catena-X. Everybody's aware of that, I guess, and that was a kind of recognition after the last few years with distinctive disruptions. Semiconductors was one of them, and there was the decision or the recognition we need a kind of fitness program. We need to coordinate ourselves. We need to set up a kind of network. Before it was everybody was working for themselves. Everybody tried to resolve the problems for themselves, but couldn't, obviously. And so the recognition was we were all in the same boat, and we need to organize ourselves and sit together at one desk, at one table, and collaborate. So Catena-X was founded 3 years ago, almost, in spring 21, and due to legal issues, it consists in 3 parts. I don't want to bore you with that, but there's a big association, there's a consortium and an operating company. One is to set up, to do the planning. The other is to elaborate what we're doing, the data space. And the third one is to run the data space. So it's a big use case, automotive use case based on data spaces. And but what else you can see here on this slide is that it's a number of companies in here, and big companies. It's big ones, the smaller ones, the medium-sized ones. It's automotive OEMs. It's technical companies. It's the smaller ones. Companies from all over the supply chains that I've shown before. The sunflower field, if you remember. So, and they represent any of these organizations I've mentioned. So, as you can imagine, everybody has got his interests and brings in his knowledge and challenges. And so this is a huge field of experience, a lot of information in there, and we're working step by step. 3 years when I started from the very first day on in Catena-X, and when I started, I thought by myself, I didn't tell it to anybody, but I give us 6 months maybe until to work, to collaborate, and we will go. Everybody will leave this organization after 6 months because it's not able and not possible to collaborate. But we're now since 3 years, and we collaborate very closely, very well, based on compliance regulations and rules, and that's very important if you establish such kind of network. And beside of this, the origin was in Germany, Europe later, and now we are on a globalization way. We have hubs in China, in Japan, and Singapore. Looking to the east, we have hubs in the US and Canada as well, and several hubs here in Europe in order to incorporate all the industry, all the suppliers. We're talking about global supply chains. So we need to globalize as well and not keep it in our own bubble. So what is it about? I've mentioned before, you remember the sunflower field. We had the information you can see on the left hand, one between the other, information transferring, interchanging, better, less better, maybe, depending on the situation, depending on the what's going on in the market, maybe obstacles we were facing there. But this was not enough. I've mentioned it's not sufficient to have an interchange of information between two partners, maybe between an OEM and a first-tier supplier, or second-tier and third-tier. It's nice to have, and of course it helps in this very situation, but it's necessary to incorporate all the partners, remembering global supply chains, lots of services in between, lots of partners in between. And so you need to, everybody in this chain can be responsible for a supply chain interruption. And it's necessary to incorporate any kind of information, any partner, to give access to any partner, wherever it might be. It can be a supplier with another supplier, it can be a supplier with a shipping agency, it can be a shipping agency with a customs authority, and whatever. So packaging industry is very important in this here as well, not to forget. So it's a huge bubble of information. Everybody can be responsible on an interruption or cause an interruption, and so it's necessary to have these information on hand, to give access and to have it on hand in case of necessity. So some lighthouse projects in here. One of the things is about traceability. It's about, if you, just an example, take a car and thousands of parts in there, and you have a call, they have a failing part or whatever, you need to call cars back, and at the moment they're called cars back from day 1 till day 30 maybe. It's 100,000 cars, whatever, need to go to the garage and to have parts changed. And we need to get the information, within information on parts, where does it come from, the sourcing and so on. We could have that more dedicated, so in case of calling back 200,000 cars, for instance, we can call back maybe 20,000, which would save money, and the customer could remain with his car properly. So demand and capacity management, of course, it's a special kind of supply chain controlling, and we have sustainability challenges in terms of social standards, for instance, as well, where we need to show that we use proper commodities. Following to these rules. In Germany, we have an ugly word for that. It's the Lieferketten-Sorgfaltspflichtgesetz. That causes a lot of headache, actually. So that's what we are doing. And what's new compared with previous projects? I told you the industry was, everybody in this industry, in supply chains, tried to resolve the problems by themselves. They set up their projects, their teams, but every time when you start such a project internally, it ends up at the end with rules and compliance and standards. You go out to your partner, I want your information, whatever. I was running such a project by myself over the last years, and it's not of success. So what's new here? The first thing in Catena-X, we have a common goal, is that we need to have this information. We want everybody to participate, to have open access, not to limit ourselves or be a close community. We want to be an open community that gives opportunity to the partners, to our partners, to cooperate. And the other thing is that we have shared data spaces consisting in rules and regulations. We have dedicated standards. We have a kind of framework, and there are existing policies to be applied, of course. And we call it the network of networks, of course, because I told you it's a very mature use case right now based on data spaces. It's the first one. Other industries will follow. We have the Factory X, for instance. We're talking about Aerospace's X, and everybody has got an X at the moment. It's very fashioned right now. But I hope, personally, from a logistics point of view, and as a logistics person, it doesn't matter whether your company builds cars or managing dairy products or whatever. Logistics is to feed production, to care that everything is on hand, in the right quality, on time, when it's necessary. Not to have too much materials in the supply chain is one thing as well. To be responsible with resources. That's why we call it network of networks, hoping that it will be distributed. The idea will be distributed to other industries. What are we doing in Volkswagen? That is about, there are certain use cases in here. They're shown, I told you about the traceability and demand and capacity management. This is one of the examples. I'm representing as a product owner, it's my second role. I told you the Puris, it's a dedicated data exchange product. It's a software, it's a kind of service that we develop with a clear objective to write standards, to determine standards for data exchange. In supply chain, it shouldn't matter where it is, between who's the partners and the objective. So we establish certain standards in order to define, because what's the key in those supply chains, remembering the picture of the sunflowers, is all of them, they need to speak a common language. So if we're talking about, let's say, stocks, whatever, if I tell you stock, everybody should know what's meant with stocks or whatever. So we need to come to a common language and define the objectives we're talking about. There are other projects, Lieferketten-Sorgfaltspflichtgesetz, here, business partner data management, quality, here, the carbon emissions is important, and as well the circular economy, looking at the zero emissions strategy. We need to dismantle our products. We're running out of materials globally, and we need to come to a kind of recycling process, and that's what it's about. There's a lot of other projects on the horizon to see whether it's the digital twin, manufacturing as a service, and online control and simulation, for instance. I've mentioned the other use cases. They're showing up now with Factory X, and Catena-X will be finished, the first consortial phase, by end of July now. And we hope, and I personally hope, that the other use cases take up our findings and carry on elaborating what we have started off in order to come to a kind of community and have a kind of interchange of findings, one to the other. So what I've told you will be implemented into our IT landscape, of course. We started end of last year with the business partner data management. Quality management will follow, and the data exchange based on my project will be finished by end of the second quarter, hopefully. We're working on that, and on the last steps, the last sprint right now for the next 2 months. And I'm really curious on how it's going on and the findings that we have and the success that we might have. I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to connect with you guys and see you later in the communication sector, and let's make it happen. Thank you.